Okay, now I will start. I know that you gave me some answers already, so maybe some of the questions you don't really have to go into details, but still it would be nice to have an overlook of
Yeah.
what are your opinions. And maybe we can start you telling me what you do, what's your relation with artificial intelligence. I know that you own um, different products, right?
Yeah. So let me tell you a little about myself, so you get a clearer picture.
Mhm.
So I started working in hospitality in '99, and the first half of my career was in the hospitality part. So I started working in hotels as a front office manager. Then I ended up managing two properties.
Mhm.
Then around '09, I guess, '08 or '09, I was more interested in marketing. So I started working for a web agency doing mainly design and creating application for hotels. So that was the first time I started working with the more technological part of the industry. And then I opened my own consulting firm company, and the company is mainly focused on helping hoteliers and even tech providers actually to integrate some level of automation in their day-to-day operation, or to understand better technology and tech providers.
Mhm.
And that is why the main problem with our industry is that when it comes to tech adoption, we're pretty much laggards, and a lot of the system we do use today were designed in the '80s or in the '90s, and so you can have a lot of friction when it comes to tech adoption.
Mhm.
And over the years, I became more interested in the AI part. So I started working in consulting for companies, integrating some levels of machine learning in advertisement. For example, I consulted for companies doing generative design, artificial design intelligence, and then I co-founded a chatbot company
Mhm.
focused on mainly hospitality and medical industries, and I do have shares in another company that is applying AI to inventory distribution for hotel rooms. So that is, in 2 minutes, that's pretty much my experience my first experience with AI over the last 20 years or so.
Mhm. And you also mentioned that you were writing a book, right, about this topic.
This is going to be out, if everything goes well, that should be around February 2021. And the book is all about, yes, it's all about what I call the travel singularity. So it's
Mhm.
basically the concept of singularity, but applied to the travel industry. So a moment when the use of artificial intelligence and domotic, Internet of Things, etc.,
Mhm.
will free up humans from repetitive tasks, so that hoteliers can focus again on taking care of guests rather than taking care of repetitive tasks that can be done by robots. And yeah, so the book will be mainly about that. And I think I send you the introduction or not? I don't
No,
remember.
no, don't have it.
I can send you the for now. There is a list. There is a list of at least there is the index, and the introduction is ready, and the whole book start from. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with. There are some thinkers that found some similarities between the Nietzsche philosophy and transhumanism. And I basically start from that. I start with the similarity between what Nietzsche used to call the Übermensch and artificial intelligence. So the whole book is all about this, this AI seen in a more philosophical way, if you will.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I have a dozen of people on the book, from the co-founder of Booking.com to CEOs of different companies, mainly focused on AI. So let me send you that. Maybe you can have some ideas.
Yeah, that would be great. So I see that you had how many years in hospitality, you said? 20?
It's 21 now, yes.
Okay, so yeah, it's a lot of years in hospitality. So maybe you can tell me um, which area do you think, for example, you said you were also working with advertising and marketing, but in one of the questions that you sent me, you said, I think revenue management, you would focus more applying AI, right? Like, where would you focus on applying AI in hospitality, according to your experience?
Well, revenue management, of course, is where the logical evolution of RM is using some level of automatism, and that is why there has been so much talking about revenue, artificial intelligence in revenue management, and that is because with today we have to take care of so many variables when it comes to finding the right price and the right inventory, that it's not a job that can be done by humans any longer.
Mm-hmm.
And but this has been like this for at least the last 5 years. Pretty much all the brands had implemented some level of AI. Even primitive uh, level of AI, being even rule-based model to to predict what the right price should be for their properties, and where to allocate inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And so revenue management, artificial intelligence in revenue management, it's kind of a big topic, and that is mainly because if you talk to somebody with some level of intellectual honesty, it's very hard to find one single reason why a human being would be better at doing revenue management than a machine. And you can understand the implication of that. That is why there's this whole school of thought that is pretty much against the use of AI
Mm-hmm.
in RM, but that is mainly because the moment you do that, these people would be basically out of job. And but I mean, that's Darwinian. All this speculation is done mainly at independent hotel level, but branded hotels, they already started integrating several layers of AI in pretty much whatever they do, from price accuracy to inventory management, even to cancellation management. There are several companies using levels of AI only to calculate and predict the amount of cancellation they will get, and based on that, selling more rooms that they actually have, because they know that some of these rooms will be canceled anyway. So of course that is like the perfect implementation for AI is revenue management systems, and that is mainly because you have to do with a lot. You have to deal with a lot of data, so it's very easy to feed the AI.
Okay. Yeah, because in my research, I talk mostly about using AI either for revenue management or in the marketing strategies,
Mhm.
advertising or distribution channels. Like, yeah, it's a kind of like my professor wants me to clear that up. Like, where would actually the hotels need to focus better? But until now, I think revenue management is winning.
I mean, the revenue management. There's no other way to go. I mean, it's not something like at some point you can get the human back in the revenue management job. It just makes no sense, you know. Today, when you look at stock markets, for example, 90% of what you see on stock markets is already done by an algorithm. And that is why, you know, because it's virtually impossible to take care of all these different variables by a human being or even a team of human beings. Mm-hmm. And that is why, you know, if you take a look at the evolution, a lot of these revenue management consulting companies are starting to create software because they know that the consulting hotels with an Excel file is a thing of the past. It won't work any longer, and there is so much space for human errors when it comes to revenue management that you don't want to be involved in that. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that is I don't even in the industry, this is not even something we discuss any longer. That's just a statement, and humans cannot do revenue management. So that's almost an afterthought. Mm-hmm. And where AI has a lot of potential, but it's not at the same level of adoption of RM, is everything that has to do with marketing and advertisement, especially. You know, a lot of advertisement firm or web agencies, they still advertise using humans. So basically, you got a human creating campaigns, creating audiences, etc. But even this, as you can imagine, it's no longer doable, especially for complicated campaigns where you have a lot of variables, such as meta search advertisement, for example. Mm-hmm. And you know, when you have so many variables, meaning rate leakage of, you know, an OTA selling your room with a 20% discount on the Russian market. This is not something that you can find by yourself. This is something that needs to be monitored by machines that currently shop for this information. And so, you know, there are so many markets and so many demographic and so many different devices that it's impossible to make sure that everybody, you know, every potential guest get the best message if you do it manually. And first of all, it's not scalable. You know, to do the same thing, you will need dozen of people working on the same project, and that is, of course, is not sustainable for companies. And that is why, you know, a lot of companies I do work with, they started integrating some level of AI in advertisement as well. Meta search, that's the typical example, but mainly because you have a lot of data. And so, for example, if the system understands that, you know, Russia has a better conversion rate at 7 a.m. in the morning, it will automatically change the CPC based on that. And again, this is not something that can be processed by a human being. There's no way.
Okay. So you think marketing and revenue is like similar in the way that in the future the machines will be doing them instead of humans?
When it comes to revenue management, as I told you, it's already the case. The question that we are still talking about humans in revenue management is that because we have a bunch of revenue managers around that will be out of job. Mm-hmm. But there's no one single theory. I mean, it's like if you want to. I always make this example. You know, it's like if I ask you, can you tell me how much is 1,425 times 322? And the first thing you do, you grab your phone and you do it on a calculator, right? And that is exactly what we're doing with revenue management today. Is the only thing that revenue managers do is to collect data, and they waste a lot of time collecting data. But this data is already ready if you use machines, if you let machines aggregate this data. When I started, for example, if you wanted to do simple things such as understanding your competitive set strategy, you had to actually go online and check day by day, write down on an Excel file, and then check with your prices. And this was it's very analog moment in time. And today, with the increased complexity and with a lot of companies, buying rates, reselling rates, a lot of B2B2C rates, rate leakage, that is virtually impossible. Even if you have the best revenue manager, that is virtually impossible to do that. And so, yeah, that is, again, we're talking about that only because we do have people that care about their jobs. When it comes to marketing, with marketing, we still have I think we're still biased to think that marketing has some level of creativity that cannot be replicated by a machine. Mm-hmm. But again, this is a myth. Take a look at what Nike or Coca-Cola did with creating artificial intelligence, different version of the same ad to get the best out of conversion, or even to create products. And so I think we have a cultural problem with giving creativity to machines, but everything that is more less involved with creativity, that means advertisement, for example, or managing of Google Ads campaigns, Microsoft Ads campaigns, meta search campaigns, display ads, retargeting, whatever. All this can be and should be done by a machine. Mm-hmm. And that is why a lot of companies do it. That, again, a lot of web agencies are either releasing their own algorithm or they are partnering with companies doing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and about your opinion of hoteliers towards AI, how do you see them? Because I know that there are some industries, for example, in the hospitals, AI is already being used a lot, but how do you see within hotels this growth?
Well, the problem with hotels is that, look, when you look at the main root, the Latin root of the word hospitality, you understand that this is a very human industry, right? Mm-hmm. And when opposed to the stock market, for example, we usually think about the stock market as something that is when it's not a human industry, right? Or advertisement, that's not really a human industry. But when it comes to hospitality, we see that is in our DNA. We think that hospitality as a human industry. Mm-hmm. And that is why a lot of hotels fear the introduction of even very little pieces of AI in any of their processes. Think about chatbots, for example. I literally seen hotels scared about chatbots because they were scared that by implementing a chatbot, they will lose the human touch. Mm. While, the only thing the chatbot did for them was to save the front office guys, hours spent on answering, replying the same question all over again. Mm-hmm. And I think this is not something that is going to go away very, very quickly. I think we need to have a shift in the mentality and how we do perceive AI. And on top of that, I always say that the problem with artificial intelligence is in the name itself. It's a semantic problem, because when we say artificial intelligence, we are already saying something that is against human intelligence. So you got artificial intelligence on one side and you got human intelligence on the other side. And that's never the case. Usually it's not a race. That is artificial intelligence plus human intelligence working together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the problems is in the name itself. If you call a chatbot a robot chat, a robot that talks in a chat, you are already implying that this is not human. While you don't really care about using a PMS, right? Every hotel has a property management system and is not afraid of losing the human touch because it's using a machine to allocate rooms. But that's called a property management system. I think the words are very important when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
When you say artificial intelligence, you are moving to a territory that you don't fully understand. And let's face it, a lot of people, whenever you say AI, they think a Terminator. That's the first thing that comes to their mind, 80 science fiction movies.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm pretty sure that is why, you don't see, when we talk about AI, we talk about a lot of things. And, but you never see hoteliers talking about machine learning, for example. And they only talk about AI. And this, for them, AI is a very, foggy concept that they don't quite understand, but they do know that is against humans. Mm-hmm. And I have that, especially in the luxury sector. Luxury, super scared of AI. While you have chains or, where you need to scale and you need to be able to do things faster and with the process, things are changing for the best. But there are some clients, they don't want to know anything about AI. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think of these hotels that maybe they don't even think about applying it? Maybe in the future, do you think it's something that they need to, like they will be forced to apply AI?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, there's no other way. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not. Look, hospitality is not only a human industry; it's a data industry. Mm-hmm. Probably hospitality is the industry that creates more data on any given day than any other industry. Think about the amount of information we have about guests, from credit card numbers, passport numbers, what food do they like, what kind of rooms do they book. Mm-hmm. And we have so many information about that. And so that is why, and this is something that a lot of people never think about that. But whenever you see data breaches, right? Probably you remember last year, there was this huge data breach in the Marriott Starwood PMS, right? Yeah. Why hotels? Because if you can get into a PMS, you will be able to get so many information about the guests, about the users, and you will have a full understanding of that person. And you don't have that if you, let's say you attack the system, the property management system of clothes shop, right? You only have one piece of the information. You will know what kind of clothes Monica wears. But if you can attack a PMS of a hotel, you will have a lot of information about Monica. You will know, okay, she likes that kind of room, and that's the passport number. She's in this demographic. That's the credit card number. This is how much she spent for drinking. This is how much she spent for eating. That's how much she spent for minibar. So that is the perfect scenario where AI can flourish, because we got so many data. But on the other end, because of all this data, there's no way that you can process all this data manually without the help of a machine. So again, that I always say that's Darwinian. There will be one point, and I think we are already in that point, where you cannot just you simply cannot keep up if you keep doing the things manually.
Mm-hmm. And now that we mentioned about this topic of the data, how do you think people, like the guests, can trust the hotels to give this information Like, how can they be a bit more open about it?
Well, let me again. I think we're biased here. I think we're not seeing the full picture because I see. Look, let's say so. For example, now in Singapore, they are using a lot of biometrics to check in, right? So you get to the hotel, and you don't even have to give your passport. They will scan your face, and basically you will be registered, right? And a lot of people is freaking out about that. Now, the problem is that I am way more comfortable with face scan than that I'm comfortable giving my passport and seeing the receptionist making a physical copy of my passport and a physical copy of my credit card. And I can tell you that this stuff is going on every day, you know. And I go to hotels every day. I see that they have piles and piles of paper that is accessible to anybody with passport numbers and credit card numbers. Basically, you can get into pretty much any hotel. You get into the basement, and you can buy stuff on Amazon for the rest of your life with all this credit cards information. Exactly. So I'm way more concerned about that. I'm way more concerned about you making a physical copy of my card, and I don't know what is going on with that. That having something that is only accessible on a cloud system with layers of security. So this whole security issue to me is a joke because we are focusing on the security of the systems while we really don't know what is going on when the when we check in and the receptionists take our passports or our credit cards away, you know. And in my experience, you know, I'm 41 now, so it happened a few times in my life that I had problems with my credit card, for example. And every time I had that kind of problem was not because I bought something online or because I gave my data to a system. Was always because I gave my credit card to a human that did something with my credit card.
Like how they handle it.
Exactly. You really don't know. I mean, again, I can tell you, I can get pretty much into any hotel, and I'm sure that somewhere there is a folder with a scanned copy of the passport or with a scanned copy of the credit card. Even because usually what hotels do, and again, this is totally illegal, but they do it anyway. Let's say so tomorrow you go to a hotel, right? And the first thing they ask you is, okay, give me your credit card. And that is usually for a guarantee, right? Now, if something goes wrong, let's say that you leave without paying, or you drink all the alcohol in the minibar, and they need to charge you. How do you think they do? They just go back, they take the copy of your credit card, and they manually charge you some extra money. Yeah. In order to do that, they need to have access to your credit card, right? That is why, for example, I don't know if you heard about this PSD2 thing that is coming in at the end of this year, you know, where, you know, it's basically will be harder to authorize a payment where the credit card is not present, right? And it's been done basically to limit that. But right now, that's what happens, you know. So basically, you are giving all this information to a receptionist, and you can do pretty much whatever you want with your credit card, and you have no way to know. I mean, a physical copy, you have no idea; it's untrackable.
So you say that usually hotels should not charge when the person is not present, even if they gave the information of the credit card?
It's not that problem. You can do it, but you need to do it in a way that is legal. You know, usually you do it by a payment gateway. So the payment gateway will store your credit card information for a limited amount of time. That is exactly what, you know, in Europe we got this GDPR going on, right? Yeah. And this is exactly what GDPR says. And the regulation per se, it's not great, but at least it's something. And it says, look, you can use this data only for the amount of time needed to do whatever you're doing. So if you are checking out, let's say that you leave without paying, I can charge your card today, but I cannot be in the position where I can charge your credit card in 1 month. There's no reason to keep the credit card for so much time. And again, I can tell you a lot of horror stories. I will not tell you the names of the hotel, but I was at the hotel a couple of weeks ago, and they were renovating a section of the hotel, right? And I could find folders and folders dating back to the late 90s.
Wow.
And so, okay, you're worried about that, and you got somewhere there are your data sitting in a basement for 20 years.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's actually what, like I've also had some experience in hotels, and that's what they always do. Like they do a copy and they just store it, and I don't know what they do with it.
Totally illegal. I mean, it's really totally illegal. And there are so many ways you can do it. First of all, they're illegal. Second of all, look, if the first thing you ask me when I come to your hotel is give me your passport, give me your credit card, that is, you are pretty much ruining my experience, right? And that is why, in AI, in domotic especially, there's a lot of talking about self-check-in and self-checkout systems. And that is why, because again, when you are charging a credit card, you're not giving a service to the guest. You're giving a service to the company you represent. So the fact that you ask me for a credit card when I get to the hotel, you are not really enhancing my experience. And you have my credit card anyway, because if you bought online, you have my credit card. But you know that the credit card that you see on a system can only be used for that. And I understand hotels, you can always have you come back to your, let's say, this is the worst case scenario, but it happens a lot. You go to a hotel and you don't pay, okay? You leave, you don't pay. They charge your credit card. So they take the money. Then you go to your bank, you call your bank and say, look, I didn't authorize this transaction. And 9 out of 10, they will give your money back. So the hotel will not be paid. You will get your money back. And that is a problem, that's a cashback problem. Usually, I always take into consideration 2% of the total revenue to be cashbacks in one way or another. And then you got credit card scams. You got a lot of those, guests booking with stolen credit cards, and or guests booking only to get visas. It's a nightmare. So I understand that hotels are, they want to be on the safe side. They want to err on the safe side of the story. But that can be done by machines. That is why we have payment gateway. In a perfect world, checking in and checking out from a hotel would be the same experience you have when you take a Uber drive. You get in the car, you get out, you don't even see what is going on. Okay, the payment goes directly via your credit card, via the app. There is a scoring system and a ranking system, so you don't have to worry about that. But that's not the case with hospitality today.
Is it similar to Airbnb?
Airbnb was the best. Well, that's exactly that's the perfect example in hospitality. Okay, Airbnb. There's a beautiful quote. I don't remember who said that, but I can check for you. And what he said basically was that what Airbnb and Uber did was to make payments disappear. And that is true. When you go on to when you book via Airbnb, or when you take an Uber ride, it's like you don't pay. You don't have to focus on the payment. It's an afterthought for you.
Yeah.
But hotels are they get nervous when there are no humans taking care of payments. Even though this is creating a lot of confusion. It's pretty much 9 out of 10 is illegal the way they do it. And it creates a bad experience for the final customer. Now, there is a study made by Cornell University, and it says that 5-minute waiting in line to check in a hotel impacts reputation by 47%. So it means that if you have an American guy standing in line for more than 5 minutes, 1 out of 2 will leave you a bad review. No matter what, you can have an amazing hotel. And this waiting in line is usually due to check in and check out. And all these things can be done automatically by AI, biometrics, AI, and automatic process of payments. So you see my point. Actually, you are not only you are not doing the guest any favor, you are increasing human error. You are working in a way that is completely illegal. So you can have fines up to 4% your revenue, according to the GDPR. So I don't see why we should let humans run this. It's proven that they are not good at doing that. So
yeah. Do you think, on your personal opinion, do you think in the future the hotels might not have receptionists, or?
There are several companies that are doing it right. I think, and that is where a lot of people don't understand it. But I think that let me put it differently. So I'm sure you're under 30, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So probably you don't remember. You never experienced what it was like to travel before technology became an important part of hotels. And back then, a receptionist was somebody that was taking care of the guest, something that we would call a concierge today, right? What a receptionist does today, 90% of what a receptionist does today is to take care of some tasks that can be done by a machine. So it's pretty common that you go to a hotel and the receptionist is barely talking to you because he has to do so many things, like checking you in, making a copy of your passport, making a copy of your credit card, checking you in on the system, giving you creating the key card, etc. All these things do not enhance the stay one bit. They actually make it worse.
Yeah.
And so my 2 cents, and this is what smart companies are doing already. Hilton is doing this, Marriott is doing that, and even some independent hotels. There is the Citizen M. To me, that's the perfect example of people that are doing it right, where you have a choice, where you go, and exactly when you go to a supermarket, right, and you got 5 people in front of you in line, or you have the little automatic machine where you can just pay and get out of the supermarket. And you can choose. But what is the added value to wait in line and let a human being taking care of your food, when you can simply pay and get out? And that is exactly the case. So if you give me the choice, I get to a hotel and I will be able to either go to a human being and the human being will take care of all, check in and check out, or I can simply do it by myself. And if I do it by myself, the receptionist will have more time because it doesn't have to deal with all this, boring, repetitive tasks to take care of their guests. So in the future, yes, the shift will be like this. There will be paradoxically, the more technology you put into hotels, the more human the work of hoteliers will become, because you are removing all these repetitive tasks to humans, and you are putting back humans where the added value is. I always quote. I don't know if you ever watched that movie, Grand Hotel Budapest.
Yes.
Very good movie. And there is a quote that I love, and it said, "Look, remember when he said, what is a lobby boy? Lobby boy is somebody that is invisible but is always there, right?" And that is exactly how technology should work in hotels for me. It's something that hotel guests should not even know that there is a level of technology taking care of all this. They just need to enjoy their stay, and that's it. The more friction you put, the more problems you create. So I don't care if it's a human or a robot checking my passport, but I want to talk to to a human being if I want to have suggestion on a restaurant, right? And so if you can give a little more free time to these people working, you're actually doing something that is more human than letting humans running everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is some of the assumptions that I try also to search with my interviews, like what might happen in the future. And I know that you already gave me some examples as well. And maybe if you also tell me about the augmented reality and virtual reality that you say that it might be used in advertising in the future, or is it already being used?
Yeah. Meanwhile, I sent you on Skype, I sent you the quote I told you about.
Ah, perfect. Thank you.
And so AR and VR, this is where things get interesting. There are two levels of two possibilities when it comes to the application of AR and VR. And AR, of course, there's a whole advertisement potential that is completely unexploited. Now, if you take your phone, for example, and you want to go from A to B, I'm pretty sure you use Google Maps, right? Mm-hmm. And on Google Maps, you have a layer of augmented reality that was in beta test for something like 1 year, and now it has been rolled out to all the users. So basically, you can see on top of the real reality, you can see information from Google, like turn right, turn left, etc. And this is not very. It's very similar to. I don't know if you remember, because that was like a fiasco. But do you remember the Google Glass technology? And Google Glass technology was something very similar. So you had these glasses, and on top of the real reality, you had a layer of augmented reality. Mm. Now, the problem with Google Glasses, the technology was great. And the only problem was that people were not ready. If you want my 2 cents, Google Glasses was too much too soon. Mm-hmm. But now, for example, Facebook is working on its own AR glasses, and they should be out next year, okay? And they will not be a geeky version of glasses. This will be, they actually sign a partnership with Ray-Ban. So you will have these amazing Ray-Ban sunglasses, and on top of those, you will have a layer of augmented reality. If that becomes the norm, so you don't have to look at your phone to check things, but you can do it directly on your glasses, you do understand why AR has so much potential. Now, let's say that you are looking at a street, and on top of that street, you can see the menus, you can see the price of the restaurant, you can see the price of the hotels, and you can actually buy directly into Google Maps, for example. And this is, I mean, if you take a look at Google Maps, what they're doing, they are trying to create this super app where you can pretty much do anything, right? Mm-hmm. And so there are already companies doing that. You can download an application, especially destination. They do have a lot of those. You can download an application, and you have a level of augmented reality on top of that. The problem with that is that it's not scalable. To be completely scalable, this has to be done by somebody with a lot of data and by an application that is very, very used by a lot of people, and that is Google Maps. So let's say tomorrow, on top of having direction in AR, you will be able to see, for example, you go in front of a hotel, and you put your phone in front of the hotel, and you will see all the information about that hotel. For example, the reviews, the average price, and you can even buy, And I mean, that is pretty much, if you understand how the market is going, that is the normal evolution of Google Maps. And when you have that, basically you can start advertising. So you have 5 hotels in front of you. What you can do is you can make one more visible than the other. So this is completely unexplored territory. Mm-hmm. When this starts, we will, the hotel with the more tech savviness will have a huge advantage over the others. VR, I don't think VR will be the same revolution that AR will be, mainly because VR could be great from a more top funnel kind of journey. So maybe deciding the destination. But I see more and more hotels using VR to market their hotels. So, for example, instead of I'm working on a project right now, and it's a complete renovation for one of my clients, and they have a lot of MICE, congresses and meetings and events. Instead of printing the usual old school brochure, we created a VR video, and we are sending to all the companies a little visor, card box, and they will be able to see inside the meeting room with just so they can actually live the experience like if they were there. Of course, when it comes to VR, there is a cost involved because you need to create a video. You need to do it in a certain way, and you need to have the visor, etc. So I think it's great for specific hotels. Not sure this will be mainstream adopted, but AR, absolutely yes. I mean, you could get to a moment where just another layer of reality on top of the usual reality. You will be pretty much able to do whatever you want.
Okay. And it will be a good tool for advertising hotels.
It will be a great tool for advertising hotels. Imagine that. Imagine again, you're more to me that the real potential is not much on hotels, rather on local industries, restaurants, for example. Because if I am when I check AR, it means that I'm already in the destination. So unless I just arrived, probably already have my reservation, right? But I will still need to eat, to go to lunch, to go to dinner, or just to buy something. And that is, imagine you have a hotel with a restaurant, and statistically, hotels, restaurants, they're never great source of revenue, right? But imagine that you can push that. So, people from the street can actually see the restaurant, they can see the menu, they can see the price, they can see the reviews, and you can even market these people. So the implications are totally unexplored. And if you look closely, and if you know where to look, you see that this is exactly where we're going. And, Google closed a lot of travel system, like trips, for example, and they started implementing all this technology into Google Maps. And I really see a near future, and I'm talking about maybe 5 years, where Google Maps will be pretty much your main point of contact for everything from, checking prices for stuff you buy at the supermarket to buying things to eating at the restaurant.
Okay, and just to finish, besides Google and AR, VR, and these topics that you already mentioned, do you have any other idea of any trends that we'll have in the future, or have you mentioned all of them that you think of?
Well, there are a few things that you need to take into consideration that are not necessarily AI, but they fuel AI. So the one is 5G, of course, 5G adoption. The other one is blockchain distribution, and that is mainly because right now I don't know if you have some experience in hotel, but one big problem that hotels face today has to do with distribution, mainly because whenever you give a price to a platform, this price can be modified, right? That is why, for example, sometimes you can find the same room costing 20% less on Booking.com than Expedia, or vice versa, right? Now, this is a big problem. This is in it's probably one of the biggest problems in the industry right now, and that is called rate leakage, right? And that means that there's either third-party buying discounted rates from OTAs or tour operators, or sometimes even OTAs that are undercutting their commission to give better prices. It's a mess, basically. I always say the moment you give, the moment you publish one rate, you don't have control over that rate any longer. Blockchain distribution can totally fix that. And blockchain is something that is always discussed when you talk about AI, because there are some similarities, especially when it comes to the slowness of adoption. So I would add that there are a few other. That is why I talk about singularity, because there are several different technologies that are pointing all to the same direction, right? All these things are not happening in silos. It's not that you have AI on one side, you get 5G on the other, you got biometric on one side, you got open API adoption on the other. All these things are happening at the same time. And all these things are happening so that the guest can have a frictionless experience. And so you can see the top of the iceberg. And of course, the top of the iceberg is AI in revenue management, AI in marketing, and maybe, little less evident, but still evident, is AI in the actual infrastructure. So everything from, voice activated rooms to, mirroring your contents when you get to the room, smart rooms, etc. But there is a whole part that is everything that is technology based that is going to the same direction. What I would add, just to sum it up, because it's something we haven't discussed about, but it could be interesting for you, is that in order to get to this level of technology, we need to make sure that all the systems used by hotels are connected with each other. And that is another big problem we have in the industry today. A lot of this, as I told you, a lot of these systems were built in the 80s and the 90s. And so they were built without the need of integrating third parties in mind. So you have, for example, even big players with pieces of code, we call it spaghetti code. That means that it's pretty much all over. And every time you want to integrate something else breaks. And that is why, over the last years, there's a lot of talking about open API adoption or microservice infrastructure. So one blocker is the our cultural doubt towards AI, but we have another blocker, and the blocker is the fact that a lot of hotels are still running on software that has been created back in the 80s, on the 90s, with complete different mindset. And so even if they want to integrate some level of AI, they cannot. Think about RMS. You want to integrate artificial intelligence in your revenue management system, right? But in order to do that, you need to access the data. And these data usually are on the PMS. So if you want to know, for example, the speed of pickup, or you want to know the average stay, all the information are on the PMS. If the system cannot access the PMS, there's no artificial intelligence. So that is a huge problem. If you ask me, there are two big problems in our industry today. Number one is rate leakage, rates being all over the place. Number two is closed ecosystem.
Sorry?
The rate leakage is the fact that the same room can have 10 different prices on 10 different providers. And that is, again, that can be solved with blockchain distribution because that's immutable. But the other one is the lack of openness of this software. So that is where the paradox comes from, because hoteliers, they had to integrate some level of technology in the 80s, on the 90s. Think about Marriott. Marriott in the 80s could not operate without a property management system, right? And maybe the independent hotel could still do it manually. But the problem is that they started working with providers that were designed during that period of time. So they were created with that mindset, and that is why now a lot of new companies are disrupting the market. But it's a big blocker. I mean, not being able to access the data means that you are not actually able to add a level of AI on anything. So the first thing, hotels, if you want to get, I'm not even telling you if you want to go to the future. If you want to go to today, the first thing you need to do is to analyze what kind of software you are using, and probably you will have to get rid of some of those and move to something that actually allow you to do stuff. That is called, I don't know if you ever heard the word, that is called tech agnosticism. So it means that pretty much every technology can be connected with another technology without having to implement, or paying for implementation or waiting years for implementation. Typical example, Oracle, that was Opera. Probably you heard of Opera.
Yeah.
Opera, like 2 years ago, if you wanted to connect anything to Opera that was not connected to Opera, that was 2 years of waiting and 20,000 euro for integration.
Wow.
So you woke up one morning with an amazing idea, okay, to solve all the problems with cancellation rate, for example. And the first thing you need to get the data from the PMS. So you go to Opera and say, look, I want to do that. I said, okay, wait in line, 2 years of waiting, and then 20,000 euro to open the integration. Now, when you do that with open APIs, basically all the way the system is coded is published. So you can go on the website. Now, today with Oracle Cloud, you can go on the Oracle website, you download the specs, and you are able to connect. You don't have to pay for that. You can code based on the API that Oracle provided. So, but that's a problem. Look, I have a client, for example, luxury clients, and he's working with a PMS that cannot integrate to pretty much anything. And no matter what great strategy we come up with, up until the moment they get rid of that PMS, there's nothing we can do. So that's a big blocker. AI, if you want to highlight what is the main blockers when it comes to AI adoption is, one is the people that is afraid of change, and that is in our DNA. But the other one is the legacy on-premise technology that have been created 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Okay, perfect. I think you are one of the few people that I've interviewed that has this perfect connection between AI and like experience in hotels, because I divided my interviews like people that work in hotels and also AI experts. But this helps me a lot because you have like both sides. So
well, thank you, but that is exactly I'm happy that you say that, but that is exactly why I created a company, because I could see that there is a problem. Because if you talk to AI people, they don't get it. If you go to somebody that only knows about AI and you explain what kind of software hotels are using, they will laugh in your face. I had a chat with a friend that is creating. It's basically the company that created the first blockchain flight reservation, right? I don't know if you heard about that. The first ticket was bought on a blockchain distribution. That's a friend. And we had this conversation. I said, look, I don't come from hospitality. And the first time I wanted to integrate these things in hospitality, I thought it was super easy. Then I started looking at what pieces of 80s technology these hotels were using. And I said, look, there's nothing I can do here. On the other end, if you talk to hotels, they don't get the AI part. Because they're used to work like this. They've been working in the same way for the last 20 years, 30 years. So it's I understand that you will always have pieces of information because each one will have a different view. And on top of that, they don't speak a common language. You get a coder together with a general manager. They don't understand each other.
exactly. Yeah, that's what it's been happening right now. But actually, that's what I need to summarize it later. And yeah, you are one of the last interviews, and I will be happy to send you the results when I'm done.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I think I'm done with the interview. I really appreciate your information. It's very, very helpful. And if I get to have any other questions, I might bother you
Yeah,
through
sure, sure.
LinkedIn again.
Oh, well, let's ping me on Skype. It's always easier,
Is
you
it?
know?
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you get a question, you ping me on Skype, and worst case scenario, by the end of the day, I will answer.
Okay.
With LinkedIn, sometimes I get like dozen of messages a
Ah,
day, and it takes me a little time. But Skype is always open, so
okay, perfect. So I might do that, and I really appreciate your time as well.
no
So
problem.
I wish you a very nice day, and thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Let me ask you just one thing. If you can you send me a copy of the recording?
I think automatically when I end the call, you will also have it.
Okay, because you okay, great. So I can sometime I just use, sometime I don't have the time to write my thoughts. So
Uh, yeah, of
whenever
course.
I do interviews, I tend to record it myself, so I have material to publish at a later stage.
That's nice. It will be kept here, and I'm not wrong, for 30 days, so you have to save it.
Good. Okay,
Perfect.
thank you. Sorry
Thank
again for
you.
yesterday. Have a great
Have a nice day.
ciao. Ciao.
Goodbye.